All right, so preseason hockey. It's not the same level of intensity that you see in, say, the Stanley Cup playoffs or all of that. But there were some notes to take on the Columbus-Pittsburgh game, which just finished, as the Columbus Blue Jackets end up winning the game over the Pittsburgh Penguins. And for the logos for this board, I picked circles for both teams. Logos they don't use that they should use, I think, a little more than they do. And Pittsburgh's done this throwback before. And Columbus, this has been your third, but I will continue my campaign to make that the main logo. All right, so let's get into the notes. First period, it looked like Riikola had scored to open the game scoring, and it was a screenshot. And I put up here, I didn't think it was a great start for Korpisalo because the play that led to this goal, he kind of was non-committal on what he was going to do, came out of the crease and looked a little bit reactionary on the goal. And then they turned around and they gave it to DePauli. DePauli was credited with the goal, and Riikola ends up getting the assist. So this is, again, a sign of just it's your exhibition game where your goaltender may not be 100% in the game at the start, or at least that's the appearance, and then he locks it down after that. And that's what Korpisalo did today. I did really enjoy listening to the Penguins announcers and their excitement for this coming season and all these kids they were talking up. I will say the one kid that I thought was kind of prominent that's not here on the board, John Marino. That Marino kid, I think Pittsburgh made a good sign there. He's not going to make the team this year, but I do think there's something there. It was a scrambly game, and it was notable how small the crowd was and that it was very quiet. Part of the reason I think why you get small crowds with exhibition games, people know it's not going to be your big name roster, and the prices are not giveaways. In many cases, the prices for your exhibition games still seem kind of sort of high, considering you're not going to see the prime main guys for the roster in that game. The shots were only 4-2 for Pittsburgh 10 minutes into the game. It was slow. And it was hard for the crowd to really get into it. They didn't have a whole lot to cheer about. And then they did. Atkinson tied it at 1. And yeah, it was a power play goal for Columbus. And you just can't leave him alone like that. He was just kind of standing out in front. And he had a few seconds to dust the puck off and look exactly where he wants to put it. You can't let Cam Atkinson do that. So this seemed to be more along the lines of the penalty killers out there for the Penguins in this situation. Inexperienced, and it was just a great play by Atkinson and the Columbus Blue Jackets. So that tied it at 1. That was the end of the first period. Second period, quick whistle saved Korpisalo. He never had the puck, but the referee loses sight of it, so he blows the whistle, and that saved him. And during this game, I did notice, and I had to put on the board, that I thought Texier had a really good game. I like that Texier kid as well. I think he's got a really bright future. And I had to put in here as well the new rules where a coach decides on a power play, icing and all this, which side of the ice the face-off's going to take place on. I really haven't noticed that this is changing the game at all, other than the announcers telling us every time it happens what's going on, which they kind of have to do because there's going to be a lot of fans saying, well, why is that happening? But in general, so far, in the games I've watched, the rule changes, I like them. I think they've been totally fine. And Columbus seemed to be getting better as the game went along. That being said, Pittsburgh was still generating a majority of the shots. So Columbus seemed to have more of their A game going. But Korpisalo was solid when their defense was struggling. And the shots were 8-2 for Pittsburgh 12 minutes into that second period. So even though it felt like Columbus was getting better, the shot clock tells you Pittsburgh got the puck a lot too. There were near misses for both teams. And what I mean by this is not just like misses on shots, but missed passes. And you can see as both teams are playing that these plays that in November and early December we're going to have highlight reel passes and goals and all this. At this point, they're just near misses. They're the exact same plays, it's just they haven't quite got it down yet. And of course, we can point out as well that some of the guys that are making these passes and going for these shots are the ones that are going to end up either going back to juniors or end up in the American League. And the Pittsburgh announcers definitely mentioned a ton. Just how many guys in the lineup for Pittsburgh were in their third their third audition game. Pittsburgh's got 3 more games remaining in their exhibition season. And so the idea is these guys are auditioning for jobs, and Pittsburgh's taking their time evaluating them and letting veterans rest. Foligno hit the post, and I thought Foligno had a decent game as well. And then there was a great shorthanded chance for McCann, which was denied. And then, of course, they had to show the Jared McCann shorthanded goal for Pittsburgh last year, which went through Hudobin, which was one that I remember I wasn't very happy. Like, Hudobin, get your arm down. Get your arm down. But yeah, so great shorthanded chance for McCann, and he's denied by Korpisalo, who got better as the game went along. And if Jonas Korpisalo can play like this regularly, Columbus will be fine in net. Now, he's not going to make you forget Bobrovsky, but you don't really have to be Bobrovsky or the second coming of Carey Price. You just have to be a very consistent goaltender who's able to, play your angles well. And Korpisalo's a big guy. Third period, Columbus scored early, and it was a goal that was kind of off over the shoulder. So it was off the shoulder and in over the shoulder into the net. Nice bank shot by Robinson, kind of a pool shot where you bank it off the defenseman, off the goalie's shoulder and in. There's no way Eric Robinson, I should say, intentionally meant, okay guys, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bounce it off the defenseman, goalie's shoulder into the net. If I do that, then I get a free dinner after the game. There's no way he meant to do that. But it was a light hitting game overall, and this is something that the announcers mentioned as well. You could notice that there wasn't a lot of intensity. And what kind of I found odd was that in a lot of the preseason action I've watched, you get guys out there who are running around the ice and throwing hits and trying to pick fights and trying to stand out. I didn't really see that in this game. They didn't really have guys playing that were of that nature. So it was really a pretty light hitting game. The Penguins did push for the tie with about 6 minutes left. They seemed to have some sense of urgency there. And then there was a good shorthanded chance for Columbus when Pittsburgh got a power play with about 4 minutes left. And then with 3 minutes left, killing that penalty, Korpisalo with an amazing chance, or an amazing save off a good chance for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So some really good back and forth action in the last 5 minutes. The goalie gets pulled with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left by the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it's all for naught. Anderson hits the empty net for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So if we look at the stats, the shots were really close. I think it was 25-22 for Columbus by the end of the game. Not a game with a ton of shots, not a game with a ton of chances. Hits were 20-7 in favor of Columbus. The shot blocks were in favor of Columbus as well, because anytime that a John Tortorella coach team is on the ice, you better block more shots than the other team. That's the rule. Giveaways were actually 5-1 for Columbus. The takeaways were 5-0 for Pittsburgh, meaning they counted a giveaway and not a takeaway in one situation. The power play, Columbus went 1 for 3, Pittsburgh went 0 for 2. Now, if Columbus can have a good power play that's actually threatening this year, and like I said, if Korpisalo can play games like this regularly, Columbus is going to surprise some people. It's easy to look at what Columbus lost in the offseason and then point at them and say, all right, well, they're going to miss the playoffs. I know I've said it. But with some solid defense, and if their goaltending holds up, and if their special teams turns things around, again, they may have to play a little bit of a trap. They may have to play some kind of boring hockey like this. But Columbus could definitely be a surprise. So there you go. If you're a Penguins fan, there really wasn't a whole lot here. Mostly young kids playing. They did have a line made up entirely of guys with Italian names, which was kind of interesting. I think it was their fourth line was all Italian named players. And of course, DePauli, who was born in Italy, although he plied his trade in Chicago as a young kid. So a pretty strong Italian flavor to the team for Pittsburgh today, and just one of those noteworthy things. We have 11 days left until the regular season, so for people who watch the scoreboard today and go, when is it going to be over? Soon. We're about halfway through the preseason for a lot of these teams. And for anybody who might be curious, because there was a change in the way that YouTube displays your subscriber counts. Currently, the channel's at 121,932, which means it's close to 122,000, but due to the change in the way YouTube does things, it rounds it down to 121,000 rather than up to 122,000, which is fine. But for people who want to know the exact sub counts, there it is. According to my phone, 121,932. Because as the creators, we can still see the exact sub count, even though YouTube will say, well, we're worried because people were stressing too much on their sub count. Now we're the only ones that see it. Anyways, there you go. If you watched the game, let me know what you guys thought in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. And again, it's a fun thing. And yes, during the regular season, when it's a light night in hockey, when like there's one game on, maybe there's two and there's no overlap, I can definitely do reviews like this for regular season games as well. I enjoyed it in the playoffs. As you can see, I'm doing it again during the preseason, and I'll be doing it in the regular season as well. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.